Hey guys, welcome to episode 23 of the Fiberista Files. Today is Sunday, February 13th. Okay, first things first, the most important thing, I finished a sock. This is the sock I showed you last week that had about 4.5 inches done. This is a plain stockinette sock knit out of the Intention Yarns colorway Focus. It's the limited edition Intention that's for sale right now. You can see it's striped. It continued striping, which I was very impressed about. The only spot that the striping really didn't work the same was when I increased for the gusset, which is fine. I think actually, let me fold this the other way. I think it breaks up. Yeah, I haven't woven the ends in yet. It breaks up the striping really awesome, I think. I really like the way that it turned out. I could have done an afterthought heel, I think, and maintained the striping pattern throughout. But honestly, I think it looks fantastic. I am not one of the world's best sock knitters. In fact, most of the time I don't enjoy sock knitting. I know that's sacrilege to say, don't hate me. But sock knitting to me is more of a chore than anything because, especially stockinette socks, because I get very bored with stockinette. It's why I've never finished a sweater. The La Vie de Bois sock, which I knit and released as a pattern like 7 months ago, still only has one sock. I knit the one, I wrote the pattern, knit the one, and then had it test knit and tweak the pattern from there. So I haven't even knit the second sock. I have a terrible case of second sock syndrome. Turns out that knitting with your own yarn makes a huge difference because I can't wait to cast on for the second sock. I finished this Friday night and I haven't cast on the second one yet, but that's more been an issue of time than it has been desire. This is ready to go. I didn't use very much yarn for the sock, and the sock is actually probably twice as tall as socks that I usually knit. Usually by the time I've rounded the heel, I am ready to be done, and so I just cast it off as soon as I possibly can. This one I just wanted to keep watching the striping go. I ended up casting it off more because I wanted to have it done for this podcast than because I had gotten to any great amount of length in the leg. I used, I think it was 37 grams for this sock out of the 108 that came in the skein. That's actually really good. That's like 3 socks per skein. And I have a size 9.5 foot, so it's not like these are small socks. So really, you could probably get at least halfway up the leg with no problem. Depending on how big your foot is, you might get all the way to the knee. Who knows? I might try that at some point. Not today. But I can't wait to cast on that second sock. So that's, I'm in love with this colorway. I'm in love with the fact that it's striped. I had no idea that was going to happen when I dyed it. I don't know if the second sock is going to do the same thing. I would hope it would, but I have seen socks go terribly wrong. So we'll see on that one. And as soon as I get that second one done, I will show you. I doubt very much I will get it done as quickly as I got this one done. But I'm hoping very, very soon to have a pair to show off. I freaking love those socks. Let's see. I have made a list, and of course, I put my list somewhere that I can't access right now. I made my list of the colorways that I'm going to dye up for this next show season. These are the colorways that I either really enjoyed, sold really well, or people told me that they really loved. These are, you know, the repeating of the colorways that I've done previously, both in yarn and in fiber. There are a few colorways that I've tried multiple times, and I get different results every time I dye them. The Hope colorway has come out incredibly different every fiber I've dyed it on. But then there's fibers like Poetic, which has come out exactly the same every time I've done it. It looks exactly the same. So I'm going to play around with that, play around with using different fibers and different, you know, whether it's yarn, I might try it in fiber and vice versa to see what happens. But the core colorways are there. I'm also going to start, hopefully, not this week that we're in right now, which is just barely starting, but next week. I have school vacation, so I'm hoping to spend a lot of time at the dye pots, and I will be dyeing up some new colorways as well in some newer fibers. What was I going to say? Oh, I get a lot of the color inspiration from the world around me. Excuse me, my nose is itchy. Ugh. Look, if you've ever seen the site Pinterest, you'll notice that there's a lot of decorating pictures and artsy sorts of things going on that site. Yes, Briggs. So I use that site a lot. I have an inspiration pin board where I pin a lot of the colors that I see that keep coming up. Yellow and gray is one that I see is coming up a lot with either white or black accents. There's a coral and turquoise colorway that I've seen a lot. And the new Pantone's 2011 fall color palette has come out too, so I've pinned that. And I'm going to be playing around with some colors, so definitely the dye pots are going to be busy for the next couple of weeks. I can't wait to show you guys what's coming up because I want to have everything listed before I take it with me so that if it doesn't sell at the show, when I come back, I can just turn it on. I can activate it in the shop and it will be available. It'd be a lot easier to do that ahead of time as I dye it than it will be afterwards when I have 50 colorways that I need to photograph, describe, list, all of that. It'll be a lot easier that way. So that's my goal. We'll see. I have been knitting this weekend. I finished that sock, I think, on Friday night, and I was going to cast on for the next sock. In fact, I was all ready to. And then I got in this flirt conversation that just, I had to go a different direction. I don't know if any of you guys read the Yarn Harlot's blog. I'm sure you do because she's a fantastic writer. Yarn Harlot had blogged that she was looking to make a hat that didn't make her look like a penis. And then she had gone on this diatribe about how people email her every time she uses a word like penis or breast or whatever because they have issues with it. And I got this whole big giggle fest with one of my Plurk friends about using the word penis. And in fact, I may have double dog dared her to use the word penis in her podcast. And she did. And not only did she use the word penis in her podcast, but she mentioned it to her like 2.5 or 3-year-old son. She put a hat on her head and said, "Hey, does this make mommy look like a penis?" I about died laughing. The podcast is called Mommy Needs Yarn, and if you're not watching it, you need to be. Go to the link down underneath here, Mommy Needs Yarn, and definitely subscribe to her podcast because she's flipping funny. But of course, after I dared her, she did it, and then she said, "You're it," so I'm it. So this weekend, when I was looking for inspiration on things to knit, I came across the Knitted Penis Chapstick Holder by Jen Android. That's on Ravelry. I'll link it in the show notes. This is what I've got so far of my knitted phallus. It is missing testes, as you can see. It is a chapstick cozy, and it's a working chapstick cozy. Here's my chapstick. There is some wool in the head of my one-eyed monster, and the chapstick just slides right in there. It's easy. It's just knit 2, purl 2 ribbing, and the testes attach on the cast-on edge, not underneath, so you can still get that chapstick out. I stuffed the head of the Jimmy with just some wool that I had laying around, and the nuts will be packed with that same wool fiber so that it will look appropriate. The yarn that I used to knit this little tallywhacker is hand spun, actually. I spun from some superwash BFL I had from CJ Kopek. This is the colorway Emotion, I think. It's been a while since I've dealt with this. This was the most flesh-toned yarn that I had. It's kind of hard to see in this afternoon sunlight. Hi, Briggs. She likes the little man root too. So anyways, all I have left to do is just a little bit. There obviously will be a ton left. This took me, okay, to be honest, it took me about 2.5 hours, but it's because I was watching a movie at the same time, and I was watching the newest Karate Kid movie with Jackie Chan and Jaden Smith, and I kept having to stop because I was laughing because it's a pretty funny movie. So I hope to get the balls on today, and then I will have my own little, Rhino Balls figurine to keep in my purse with my chapstick, so hopefully that'll be easier to find. Let's see. I have notes today. It's what I'm going off of. Let's see. Oh, and definitely a big thanks to CJ Kopek for mailing me the yarn, for making the yarn that I could make my little man root possible with. Podcast review, I just mentioned it. This week's podcast that I have been watching is Mommy Needs Yarn, and to be completely honest, anything that has the word mommy in the title, I'm not really anxious to go see. I don't read mommy blogs. I'm not a parent. And if you don't have kids, it's hard to get really enthused about every other child's, bodily functions and activities. call me callous. I just don't really care. But after this plurt conversation we had, or before this, she's been on my plurt for about a week now, and she's funny. Oh my God, does she make me laugh? So I went over to check it out, and within the opening credits already had me cracking. Her opening credit has this, Mommy Needs Yarn title, and then there's a picture of her little boy getting decked in the face with some snow. And who puts that on their podcast? Like, I just had to laugh. So she got me with that. She's a very dry sense of humor. She just knit The Starving Artist, which is I'm going to sneeze. No, I'm not. Oh, excuse me. She just knit The Starving Artist, which is a pattern by Laura of Knit Girl fame, and she did a great job. It looks awesome. So she's a pretty good knitter, and of course it has to do with, you hear her kids in the background too, and it's just funny. Definitely check her out. There are several other video podcasts that I am going to be looking at, hopefully to review here right off. I really feel word of mouth is a good thing for the craft industry and podcasting specifically, because if we don't toot each other's horns, who's going to, really? So definitely there will be more of those. I don't want to mention any more podcasts that I haven't seen right off, because I want to be able to talk intelligently about them. So there will be some more upcoming. So definitely stay tuned for that. Let's see. I haven't dyed anything, of course, because I just told you I've been knitting. Oh, I did. Last week I asked you, or 2 weeks ago, I asked you if any of you had a spindle hook turning tutorial. Will you stop? You are driving me insane. I just pat you. For a spindle hook turning tutorial, something that could help me make some hand-turned hooks for my spindles. Well, I didn't find any. Nobody came forward. But after a serious amount of trial and error, I do finally have some, let's see if I can get this on my hair where you can see it, some spindle hooks that I like. This is just a trial. The bottom here is a little bit short. I want to make them longer so they can set into the shaft a little bit further. This is Katie's spindle. It's going to go down quite a bit further than this, but the hook itself will look, are you comfortable? Will look just about like that. So I'll have a hand-turned hook, and the hand-turned hook will give me the ability to adjust as necessary to improve spin. It's very difficult to drill a hole directly in the center of the shaft. So when we insert the hooks in there, especially with the cup hook, sometimes the apex of the hook messes up the spin. So hopefully with the hand-turned hooks, I'll be able to tweak as necessary to get a better spin on the spindles. And that's what they're all about. We want good quality, perfectly spinning spindles. So, Katie, as soon as I get my husband to drill that hole, I will be sticking a hook in there for you and getting that mailed back to you. She is one of our happy Highland Handmade spindle customers. This is Katie from Knitting on the Fly podcast. And she took advantage of our lifetime guarantee that if you ever break your spindle or whatever, we will fix it or we will replace it. We ended up having to replace the shaft of hers, but the whorl was fine. So we got rid of the kitty-chewed, broken shaft and replaced it with one that hopefully will work better for her. So that's really about it today. I spent a lot of mental energy coming up with synonyms for penis that I could include in today's podcast. So I don't have a whole lot else to talk about other than I wanted to mention briefly marketing strategy for small business and specifically indie craft business, because put my hair up. This cat is driving me insane. I need to get out of my face. Marketing in craft industry is very different from general marketing strategies, and I've been reading a lot about building business and different ways to advertise in places and things like that. And a lot of the stuff that I've been reading hasn't been appropriate to me specifically, or I think maybe craft in general. Ooh, that looks terrible. Maybe that's coming back down. I'll have to put my hair up later, I guess. Sorry. A lot of marketing campaigns talk about finding a lot of places to advertise and making simple little ads over a broad range, sort of like a birdshot method, where you're trying to get it out to as many people as possible. And it doesn't have to be a really in-depth ad or anything, super complicated, but one that will get your name out there. The problem with that is you'll spend a lot of money, and a very small percentage of the people who see your ads click through and then commit to buying. It's very difficult to buy yarn from a place you've never bought from before because you have no idea what it feels like, any of that. And that's totally understandable. The thing in craft that works so well is word of mouth. So rather than using the birdshot theory, which spreads a small amount over a wide area, I focus much more on the the slug method of advertising. If you've ever shot with a shotgun, a slug is a solid core. It's a very large, bullet that fits inside a shotgun shell. So rather than spreading a little bit over a broad place, you've got a very narrow focus, but you hit it pretty hard. And what I do with that is to develop personal relationships. I don't spend a lot of time telling everybody how wonderful I am. However, the people who have bought from me, the people who enjoy my stuff, that's exactly what they do. Lori Bean loves my stuff, and so she pimps me out in the best possible terms to other people. She has said wonderful things about my shop. My friend Courtney, who lives up the street from me and has bought from me several times, actually uses Highland Handmade's yarns and fibers in swap packages. That's pretty much what she uses. She comes to me and buys $150 worth of stuff at a time and sends it out all over the world. I think some of my yarn has just recently gone out to New Zealand, as a matter of fact. So I court Courtney rather than a bunch of people all over the world who might buy a skein of yarn. That repeat business and that individual relationship is what's working for me. So rather than, this cat just wants to be climb inside me and live. Rather than spending a lot of money on Ravelry ads and things like that, which I haven't been terribly successful with, I'm working more on building those personal relationships. That's why I'm on Facebook and Twitter and Plurk and everything else. It's to build those relationships with people. So like Katie from Knitting on the Fly podcast, so that they will then pick up a lot of the work of my advertising and they will actually promote me in a more authentic way than creating an ad for the Ravelry notebook page or something like that. So definitely, I encourage anybody who's in the industry or who's just beginning in the industry to try it out. See if you can get somebody to pimp your stuff. I do give away free yarns occasionally to giveaways and things like that. I think definitely if you can get your yarn or fiber in somebody's hands and have them say, oh my gosh, this stuff is amazing, then that's going to do you more good than, having a page in the back of Spin-Off magazine or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's definitely what's worked for me. So that's pretty much what I've got this week, guys. This is my little love truncheon and I saying until next week, guys, happy spinning and knitting. Thanks for tuning in.